Welcome to the AI innovation space. We are your experts, and I'm Iyanu.
And I'm Todd.
We're here to offer our unique insights and hold conversations with top leading innovators in the world of AI and machine learning.
We dissect and discuss the often complex realm of AI in an accessible way and go deep in discussing the innovative technologies that impact our lives every day.
This podcast is sponsored by Lumen, an IT contractor offering a creative and human-centric approach to medical imaging, cybersecurity solutions, training and support, and more. Lumen's values of ingenuity and connection make us a leader in adopting innovative technologies for federal healthcare and beyond.
Visit Illumin's website at www.illumin.com for an overview of the services offered and to read our blog series on leveraging AI for your business. Thank you so much for listening, and let's begin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the AI Innovation Space. I have my co-host with me here, Todd. Todd, how are you doing today?
Very well, thanks, Yano.
Good. Well, we also have with us here a group from Etsy. I'm really excited about the conversation we're about to go into today. One, we have Kyle, and then we have Narayan. Welcome, Kyle. Welcome, Narayan. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You both looked at yourself and you're like, oh, well, how are we doing?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure, give a chance to speak first. Being kind.
Maybe you had some AWS pipeline stuff you're trying to fix before you got up on the call today. So.
I just turn my Slack notifications off, so we'll see if the company's still standing in like an hour,
Awesome. Well, it's really great to have you guys on, and we're really excited to get into the conversation today. I wanted you guys to take a few minutes to, basically introduce yourself. Or Todd, how do you feel we start here? Have them introduce themselves for a bit, and then we just get right into the conversation today.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
So Kyle, you could go first, or we could have Narayan.
I'll go first. Yeah. So my name is Kyle. Currently a software engineer on the machine learning platform team at Etsy, specifically working on real-time ML model serving. I've been in the machine learning space for a little while. Weirdly enough, came from a biology background and kind of fell into data science and machine learning. I started off at what I would call the data science, product data science side of things, more training models for insights and stuff like that, and I've slowly moved more towards software engineering until I've ended up where I'm at now as almost a full platform engineer. Really love writing and talking about everything to do with machine learning infrastructure, like machine learning in enterprise companies at scale. And yeah, super stoked to talk more about that today.
I am Narayan. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I went to the University of Waterloo. I'm currently I'm an engineer in the real-time data streaming. So getting data sets to models. I started off in products, so doing front-end stuff, and then slowly just kind of got over that and moved into more ML infrastructure stuff.
That is awesome. So, one thing really exciting about you both's background is I really love to, sort of, as we go into the conversation here, a little bit about streaming. I'm not sure if we've covered streaming topics here, using things like Apache Kafka or, some of the streaming stuff. So I'm really excited about getting into it. Todd, you were gonna ask a series of questions, right?
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing your background, guys. So we kind of were interested in kind of getting right into it. You guys both work at Etsy. So can you explain how Etsy is using machine learning and how that looks like?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say some of the larger machine learning use cases as an e-commerce company are around search, ads, and recommendations. There's also seller tools and risk and a bunch of other smaller squads that have different machine learning initiatives. But as far as revenue driving machine learning goes, it's definitely a lot around the ranking use cases that directly give our users listings or things like that, or good search results.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, excellent. So let's Let's go deep. So can you really share a bit about like in your world what recommendation systems are? We've heard of it being used by companies like Netflix, and in your world, what does recommendation systems look like? In the Google world, it could be page rank algorithm, closeness, centrality, betweenness, all that kind of stuff, right? Hubs, authority scores, things like that. But your world, is it KNN? What's recommendation engine in your space?
Yeah, for sure. I guess like I always think about it like there's not like it's more of a system than like an engine or a specific model. There's a lot of orchestration logic and initial candidate fetching and scoring of candidates. Like it's a multi-stage process for a lot of our like real-time search ads and recommendations things. An example might be like fetching a set of, for a given search request, fetching a set of candidate listings from more naive search, like either an approximate nearest neighbor search, something KNN based, or like a Solar, Lucene, Elasticsearch index. Afterwards, fetching features for those and send them off to a maybe more of a deep learning based model for real-time scoring and ranking to then be returned with the user. So it's not, just I'd say like one algorithm, but kind of a series of steps, all of which can affect the final set of ranked items to be returned to a user.
Right, right. How has Etsy generally approached machine learning, just in general? Is this something you guys are just getting into, or is something that you've always, thought of?
My understanding is it's been at Etsy for quite a long time. I mean, they've had a pretty experiment-driven culture.
Yeah.
Like a lot about experimentation, right?
Yeah. So I started off on the experimentation team, like a lot of A/B testing, and basically every feature that comes out on Etsy has been A/B tested. So there's like a huge push to like try to understand the data that we're getting and try to use that to make product decisions.
So related to that, how do you guys think Etsy's approach to machine learning has kind of evolved like over the years since they started using it today? Like, can you describe that process?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess like the approach to machine learning has always been the same in that it's been very experiment-driven and pushing there, but it's like in terms of how the models we've been building, I'd say there's been, and this is me speaking personally, but like my perspective has been there's been a lot of more investment in novel deep learning based techniques and embeddings and all sorts of more state of the art things that like we're pushing into real production. I think we just recently published an article on our Codis Craft blog about the first deep learning ranker for real-time search. And we're working on another article right now about the infrastructure changes that we had to make in order to support that in real time. And so one of Etsy's primary kind of like top 3 goals is to be like, best in class search basically. And I think that directly comes down in the form of the investment that we put into our machine learning tools.
Yeah. I think recently a big shift that we're trying to make is like make ML more like democratized at Etsy, as opposed to like, oh, I need to have like a lot of data engineering experience to like get a model up and running. Like anyone can just get going with it. And I think that's like what a big push has been recently, just trying to get more self-service ML stuff out for us.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's really, really awesome. How are you guys approaching that? I'm sure you guys work with some APIs and things like that. Like how are you approaching that?
I think it's just like we have a variety of projects that like kind of take the code aspect out of a lot of things. For example, like other teams have created things like let's say you want to be able to like stream from like a Kafka topic. Instead of me like having to know how the ins and outs of Kafka work, like I just click a button in the UI and I have a new topic, and it'll auto create a schema for me. And like I don't have to worry about all that as someone who just wants to read from a topic. I've been working on some stuff where like you can write SQL and like it'll automatically turn it into a feature using KSQL. And like, stuff like that, just like slowly remove the amount of code you need to know or like the amount of background information you need to know before you can like get started with AI and ML stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like the organization that we're both in, despite being on different teams, is called MIPS. It's Machine Learning Infrastructure Platform and Systems. And basically, like it's all about being product driven, right? Everything that like we're building is like about like improving the interface that we provide to our internal customers who are also developers of machine learning practitioners, and making things that are used to be copy and paste bash scripts or like write your own SQL code, like one-click deployment. So it's a lot about how do we work with product and user experience folks to develop good internal products to expedite shipping, machine learning, expedite experimentation, and the number of iterations that we can complete to continuously improve as quickly as possible.
That's really, really interesting. I have a really, really interesting question as well, right? When I think about Etsy, for some weird reason, I think about them also as the paid version of Pinterest. Now, don't get on me for this, but I'll get right into it, right? So basically, a couple of your customers basically have like images that they either want to sell or want to share with friends, maybe like a calendar that gives them updates on something. Have you guys ever looked into anything with regards to how to use computer vision to better improve some of those search related terms, or am I just sort of in my own world thinking?
No, you're pretty right on the money. I mean, like we do have a Rex Vision team here, and Etsy did just publicly launch our first search by image feature, where you can just take a picture of something with your camera phone, and like find similar listings based on that. Like since our catalog is made of millions of handmade goods, you can imagine sometimes it's tough to even describe what you want to search for. And there's so many unique items on Etsy. So like there's been computer vision initiatives for a while where I've never been involved directly with any of the computer vision initiatives, but they're definitely there empowering real features.
Yeah. I mean, Etsy has a very large reach, and I would also assume that, you guys are doing some work with comments made by people that make purchases, like the reviews and things like that. One thing that I found, just being a user of Etsy, is that like a lot of customers would say, if you want to get the best product, look at the reviews and, see how that actually helps you too. So are you guys doing any work on making the reviews an important factor in featuring maybe a customer? Is that something you guys look at, or or am I going too deep into like the weeds of your work?
I mean, I imagine it's part of the modeling process itself. And like, I also imagine and I'm assuming that like, I mean, I know that our models for a fact have hundreds and hundreds of features, of which maybe review-based embeddings or average rating and stuff are one. I mean, like, how many unique features have you seen across the stream?
Yeah, there's like ton. Like it's like you can't even like count really. Like I feel like a lot of stuff that like goes into like even like people looking at the listing, clicking on listings, like everything really drives into that, I'd say. But
yeah, it's definitely a nuanced process that's not solely dependent on any like one set of comments, reviews, things like that. Like it's a lot of information goes into like making a decision on like what you might be recommended.
Awesome. Also, this question is for Narayan. I think that also with the streaming, what have you found to be some of the best tools or best practices in the streaming space, just in your experience working with Etsy?
Yeah, so I'm like pretty new to the streaming space, just as like a heads up. This is like my first streaming, but like I definitely found like one nice thing is just throwing everything on GCP and like not fully having to worry about your own infrastructure about a lot of stuff, especially like if you're like working on a small team. There's 4 people on my team, including the manager. So if you're trying to like maintain a system that can't go down, otherwise your ML models are going to go awry. Like it's really, really nice to be able to like rely on someone else's infrastructure and just worry about writing code, which I'm a big fan of right now. Like infrastructure as a service is like a big plus for us right now. That's helping us do a lot of stuff.
Awesome. And what are some of the things that you guys look at while you're building your structure? What are the things that you guys pay close attention to, like especially as it pertains to the setup?
I'd say cost is like a big thing. Like it's very easy to like, I think like a hard thing is like when you're an infrastructure team, it's hard to determine fully what your impact is to the end consumer. And at the end of the day, what is our end consumer? Is our end consumer someone who's using our product? Is it someone buying something that we recommended? Figuring out North Star metrics has definitely been something that we're struggling with for that kind of stuff. So then when you come in and try to look at cost, numbers can get really arbitrary very fast. Like if I see $200,000 in compute costs on data flow, I don't know if that meant we made a bunch of money at the end. Like where do we like end? So like that's like been like something we're trying to figure out for sure. Is just what North Star metric is and where do we determine how we made an impact.
Wow, that's a really, I think that's a problem a majority of companies face at the moment, like with AI models, like, okay, yes, this is doing this, but how do we measure its impact in terms of cost? Kyle, did you have anything to add to that?
No, that makes a lot of sense. We like definitely think a lot about cost back here, about how we like the metrics through which we drive impacts, because there's everything to do with like how we can drive revenue directly versus how we reduce toil and dev hours for our internal customers.
Right.
And all of those things, including how performant our systems are, go into the overall impact that we make, like within Etsy and to users of Etsy. So yeah, it's definitely multifaceted.
Yeah, it's always like a balancing act. Like how can we get the fastest performance, but at the same time, like not spend $1 million in Google.
Yep.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. Todd, go ahead.
So, Kyle, I have a question kind of geared towards you. You mentioned that you had come from a biology background. I think you used to work with Pfizer. So, just kind of curious, like, how does your experience working with ML ops with Pfizer kind of compare to Etsy, and what kind of insights did you use from your role there with Etsy now?
Yeah, for sure. I think again, speaking for myself, like one of the things that was kind of interesting for me with joining Etsy is that the technology stack that I was actually using at Pfizer is relatively similar. I work with a lot of Python, Kubernetes, Docker, cloud-based services, that sort of thing. And it wasn't actually a big transition for me. But the difference between being like a machine learning engineer on the operations side at Pfizer, building internal applications, and being at a company whose machine learning models all support one global massive application, was the scale that I had to operate at and the different considerations that come with that. So as opposed to, like X requests per day, like now it's like hundreds of thousands of requests per day in our real-time machine learning services. And so the scale that we're operating at, or like that I started operating at, the learnings that came with that scale were like a big difference between being the stuff that I was doing in Pfizer and the stuff that I get to work on now.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Another question that I had for you guys is one, like what tools do you specifically use for your streaming?
Yeah, right now we're using Apache Beam for like parallel processing, a lot of Kafka for just obviously like streaming data. Our stuff runs on Dataflow right now as like a runner. A lot of teams use Spark, which is really, it's like we've recently made a big shift into Spark. We're using Scalding before, so that was it was a nice change from Scalding to Spark for sure. No shade to Scalding, but not. But yeah, glad we're on Spark now. Yeah, what else do we do? Yeah, Apache Beam. Bigtable has been a new addition to try to like speed up reads from our stuff. So
interesting.
That's awesome.
I know nothing about it. I'm like, oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I don't know like that much about our streaming.
So, I would assume that you guys use the agile-based methodology to do some of your teamwork. How have you found that helpful, especially with agile and machine learning? How has that been for you, like with your ML team, using the agile ops or agile approach?
Yeah, I guess we're software teams, and like agile ceremonies and methodologies, particularly the fact that there is no one prescribed agile methodology, but like it's all just about continuously making your process better. Worked well for the teams that I've been on and interacted with at Etsy. Obviously, every team has a different set of personalities, different set of folks, and different way to operate. But if you have that mindset of let's constantly improve our process to the point that works for this team and the goals that we want to achieve, I've seen pretty generic set of agile principles function very, very well. And we're constantly coming up with new ideas, new improvements, new things to try that help us deliver good software internally, is my perspective. So I've liked it, yeah, in short.
I've kind of got an unpopular opinion on that. I'm not a big agile guy. I think when I was a product engineer, it made a lot of sense because like, you're shipping out a demo or a feature at the end of every week or sprint.
Exactly.
You have something to show at the end of it, but I've always found that like with ML and data engineering stuff, like I might not have something to show you. Like it's a lot slower of a process.
Yeah.
To like from like one iteration to the next to like show someone or like I don't know. So that's like definitely been something I've been struggling with is like how agile kind of fits in with this, or like how do you break down tasks in a way where it fits naturally in a 2-week sprint,
Yeah.
Well, I guess like
Right.
like it does make sense. Like the time would have like an impact there. But my rebuff to that is that agile by definition can never be wrong. If the spirit of agile is to always like make the process better and to change the process until it works, then like if agile's not working for you, you're not doing agile.
That's fair.
So Narayan, so do you give insight into the like definitions of dones or the tasks that you're working on in the 2 weeks, or is there someone who sets that? Because you mentioned that sometimes it's hard to fit that in. So how does that look like for you guys?
I think it's usually like a conversation. Like I think
Okay.
that we can accomplish this, and this is like the finished state that we can get in the next 2 weeks, and then that's what I'm gonna push for. But yeah, I think it's a lot harder to define it. I think for AI and like data engineering
I
stuff,
say.
as opposed to like, oh, I made this feature, it's done. Like this
Right.
is done, ready to go. We can ship it to production.
Yeah, I will say it's like less of a like a logical like application to like experimental workflow.
Mhm.
I know a lot of data scientists are like, how do I make tickets for like hope my model doesn't fail. Like
Yeah.
I hope this comes up today, when like everything's kind of done on a whim and stuff like that. So like there probably are experimental tasks where it's just like it's so up in the air, it's not even worth trying to like you're breaking as you go. You don't know.
Like at that point,
Right.
your like 2-week sprint just becomes a time box.
It's just like you're just constantly working on what I would amount to like spike tickets or something like that, where it's just all unknowns, all de-risking, all trying new things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so like up in the air. Like myself and Todd were working on something, and we until we fixed it, we couldn't really demo it. but then we had meetings every week where we had to say like what we had to do. So yeah.
Those check-ins can be a little bit somewhere. It's like, we're still trying stuff. Like
we are still trying to make this work, and stuff. Oh, hey, look, here's our code. And so
in those situations, I really like that. Like we have a lot of technical managers at Etsy. Okay. So like when we try to fit in like a 2-week sprint, and I'm like, oh, this is the issue we're having. It's never like, oh, like it's very understanding. It comes from a place of like, oh, I've been there. I understand what's going on.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, why isn't this done yet? So that's probably like the big saving grace with it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like it's awesome when you have a technical lead, managing projects. I think it's basically from a risk, perspective, they're able to understand like, okay, here's what they're really encountering. Here's how we can actually help, because then another thing with data engineering and machine learning is so connected with a whole lot of other stuff, right? Like you're talking to developers, you're talking to, it might be an ops issue, it might be completely different, so it's hard just walking through some of those, but that's why I asked the question earlier about how you guys think about like your teams and how it's structured and things like that, because if not, it could be a nightmare. So
I mean, I will say that neither of us as software engineers are responsible for the organizational structure or team dynamic. So I don't have a lot of input into that process, but I don't know. I think like within MIPS, we've been like trying to find team boundaries and like team groupings that work so squads are closer with one another. Like the streaming data the streaming data team is now very close to the feature systems team.
Yeah. Right.
And like our model serving team is closely partnered with the training and prototyping team, so that things are handed off easily from an infrastructure sense there. So I think within MIPS, just trying to organize things sensibly so that I believe it's what Conway's law, where like your infrastructure starts to mirror your organizational structure. So that's a benefit rather than a curse.
Right. And one of the things that I'm realizing also is, it's something I'm still thinking about, but like the idea of having like knowledge sharing across teams, I think it really also helps to help other team members sort of understand, like, okay, this is kind of what's going on here. Not necessarily understanding the whole entire, Apache Kafka or, DAG or Airflow or something, but, at least it gives them some appreciation for efforts, and also helps to coordinate teams. So that's really good.
Yeah, so can you guys speak to the cross team culture? Like, I know you guys are operating on different teams, but you're together today. So like, what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, I think our like our team and our org has done a great job of like just being social. Our director especially is very pro, let's get together, let's hang out, like not even work, just like socialize and like get to know each other, so that those informal lines of communication open up, which opens the path for more cross-team collaboration and knowledge sharing and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, literally, yeah, I think, and we have like bi-weekly like information sharing meetings where like any team can just like kind of demo what they're working on, and like it's not mandatory. We're in the sense where like you're stressed out like, oh, I need to get a demo out by like tomorrow for this thing, but it's like, oh, I'd like someone to know what I'm working on, and maybe they can like leverage what I'm working on. So it's like very like, if you have time, you should definitely share, but like no one's making you share if you don't have the time to do it type thing. So
yeah.
I see. All right. And also, I'm kind of curious, like, is there any tools that you guys aren't currently using with Etsy that maybe you're considering kind of from a machine learning standpoint, or any challenges that you guys are, trying to overcome to kind of take you guys to the next step? And anything you can share on any of those areas?
At the high level, we can talk about just like, I think our strategy is really like a product driven one. We developed a lot of tools internally for machine learning. And I think one of the big focus areas for us as MIPS going forward is going to be about simplicity and automation for our customers. So we're not at the place where like, oh, we need this new shiny technology to like have this. Like our customers have for the most part told us like, all right, we have a lot of what we need. Like, can we get this, neatly gift wrapped in a box to make it as easy as possible to use? Yeah.
That's awesome. So you released a book, Kyle, which I'm interested in hearing about, titled, I believe it's on governance, the framework for governance.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say that it's officially a report, not a book. So it's 47 pages. Probably depends on what your definition of book versus report is. But it's like 47 or 49 pages. It was sponsored by Algorithmia, who has since been acquired by Data Robot, and it's essentially a series of kind of like high-level practices in order to achieve the kind of parity that or to achieve in machine learning what we have with software and what we have with data, where we have a high level observability, we have like comprehensive logging, and we have auditability and like a lot of essentially knobs and high level control flows over these things as an established practice. ML governance is defined in that report, I believe, is like the ability to like manage your ML ops. So if you think of like your operations layer, governance is like the level, like the highest level possible over your operations layer, and being able to kind of see, instrument, and build on everything down there. It's definitely a high level term, but the report kind of outlines all of the different components that make up ML governance and everything that you would need to actually build out a governance framework within your organization.
That's awesome. So did you have any addition to that?
So yeah, kind of your experience on writing this report, like, is that something you plan to continue, in the future? Did you like the process, or any insights as to, someone who kind of publishes some reports on machine learning that you can share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. personally, I love writing. I love doing podcasts and I love writing, and I hate doing conferences. Conferences you have to prepare, it takes a lot of time. Then you have like this like period where you have to go up, and like depending on how you do during that time decides all of that previous effort that you put in. Whereas like podcasts, I can just show up and talk and it's fun. And writing, I get like a lot of chance to like tweak and make everything good. And like just the way that I want it, and know that it's always going to be that way and delivered in this same way all the time to everybody, as opposed to being dependent on how I talked. So I love writing, and I really like working with O'Reilly as well. There's a lot of great folks there, like a ton of great editors. And working with the folks at Algorithmia was awesome too. Like getting to like work through the thought process and like interview folks on like, what is ML governance? What is ML ops? Like, what do all of these poorly defined terms like actually mean to folks in the industry? And how do we put forth a more objective framework around something that's currently so abstract? Was a lot of fun. And I'm still working with O'Reilly actually on another book right now. So I'm writing the second edition of the Python machine learning cookbook. Far less of a framework, more just a lot of Python code and little snippets, which is also fun because now you have to focus on the technical side of things. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna continue like writing and working with O'Reilly.
Nice.
I'm interested in learning a little bit more about, how you got the opportunity with O'Reilly. Like, was it based off of your previous experience writing for Algorithmia?
Yeah. So I was reached out to O'Reilly for that report, just because I also write a lot like for my own stuff on Medium. Like a few years back, I like just had this fun idea. I like found my text messages in the SQLite database on my Mac. And I was like playing with like Word2Vec and Elasticsearch at the time. And I was like, I bet I could build a kind of a cool chatbot with my, like with my own text messages that would like send really funny replies. And it worked. And I wrote an article about it, published it to Towards Data Science. And since then I've been writing about like ML ops and other machine learning practices. And as a result, they reached out as one of like, wasn't a super saturated space at the ML at the time, like here are like people with popular articles on ML ops. And they're like, would you be interested in writing this? And I was like, yeah, definitely. And now that I kind of have those relationships, it's been cool to like continue to work with them to do more stuff.
You made Kyle GPT?
Well, yeah, yep, exactly. Kyle GPT, that was me. I think the article still works. You can find your text messages, make a little chat bot that just, text similarity, just text response. Yeah, one of those. Basically just made a training data set using my own text messages. And it was pretty fun. And disappointing.
That's awesome. So did you have any other questions?
So one other thing I believe you also do, Kyle, and that's great to hear that you like writing, is you work with some data science candidates. Can you kind of describe any insights or experience on that?
Yeah, for sure. So I've also I'm a mentor at the boot camp that I graduated from for data science, New York City Data Science Academy. I've been like mentoring / just helping folks out who are also going through the boot camp for like years now. And it's a mix of like help me with my code to help me get a good data science resume to help me like prep and study for interviews or even just general job advice. It's been a lot of fun because I've also, as a result of like being in this role and also being an instructor now for the academy, I've gone through a lot of teacher training in New York State. I'm actually now like a certified career school teacher after 4 years, 90 hours of courses and like 2 previous provisional licenses. But I've learned a lot of things through like mentorship and like helping these different students out and like these teaching classes that I've also been able to apply to my kind of day-to-day work at Etsy. Like a lot of the like simple principles behind like coming up with the lesson plan or like catering myself to a student's learning abilities and stuff has helped me communicate with peers in the organization and deliver information more effectively, which has been super fun. It's also just gratifying to help people out, solve their coding problems quickly, and I just get to kind of keep a pulse on the data science industry from all the way over here in infrastructure land.
I see. That's great to hear. So circling back to Etsy, like does Etsy encourage like training of people on data science topics? Is that something that you present on, or do you just kind of stick to doing that on the side?
I mean, I can definitely tell you that the applied scientists at Etsy are better, like know more about machine learning than I probably ever will.
Okay.
But there's a lot of knowledge sharing both in the like among ML practitioner teams in addition to infrastructure teams. And I always try and, if I have a relevant article or like relevant learnings to share with someone in the applied science space, I totally share it. Just as like they have, there are tons of, working groups or like knowledge sharing groups, paper reading groups, that kind of thing, depending on what corner of ML you're interested in reading about. But yeah, definitely pro knowledge sharing, Jeffrey, pro education. I think we can access like Coursera and O'Reilly books and like some other platforms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So continuous learning definitely built into the daily life. And plenty of people to ask for, help if you don't understand a platform or have questions about something. Lots of helpful people.
Yeah, it's a big part of the Etsy culture, just making sure like everyone's down to drop whatever they're doing to explain like a concept to you, and like they're excited to do it, not like, oh, I have to do this part of my job. So big fan of that for sure.
That's great.
So just as we wrap up here, I wanted to ask another question, which is around like some real world application of machine learning, that you think has the potential of being really, really helpful in the future, but hasn't really been paid much attention to yet. In your mind, what would that be? Some real world machine learning applications that have huge potential, but basically you perceive it's not really being paid much attention at the moment.
And if I had a good answer for that, I'd be a VC. But but yeah, sometimes people ask me that. I'm like, come on, I'm like, stop, like just read like the trend report that whoever posts that. I'm not that much smarter than them. I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what's been paid little attention to. People are probably just dumping money into what like generative models right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be machine learning. I think it's gonna be like linking those things together. Like I saw a website the other day where you just like throw a prompt in, generates a bunch of images from Stable Diffusion, and automatically just like D2C, direct to customer, like prints it on a T-shirt and sends it to you. Like stuff like that. It's kind of like all of. It's been paid attention to, right? Like everyone's Twitter feeds are nothing but Stable Diffusion and ChatGPT. But it's like yeah, exactly. But I think the interesting things are going to come with like stringing those things together into use cases that make sense and not just fun screenshots.
I think like maybe like I think there has been a little bit of work in this right now and like a lot of research has, but I think somewhere where I can definitely see like moving forward is like in the healthcare space. Like there's a lot you can just tell by like looking at a scan and like having the doctor come in just to look at a scan when like, oh, this foot is broken, like I know my foot's broken, like you don't need to tell me, I saw the x-ray, so and I don't need to pay you $3,000 to do that. So like small stuff like that, I feel like it's something we could definitely like move, but like obviously there's like a lot of regulations like HIPAA and like trying to get around the data governance of all that. So definitely like a big blocker there, and like the well-being of the people who are receiving care, but that could like potentially be a cool way to use it moving forward.
Biggest machine learning problems are not machine learning problems. Boom. Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. And Kyle, you mentioned earlier that you have a biology background. I'm kind of curious, like, if you had to do it again, do you think it's a good path to, pivot from biology to data to machine learning, or would you wish you could maybe do something over?
If I would start anywhere, I'd start with software engineering. As much as I would love to have some cool story about how I apply biology to my daily life, 2 degrees, like both, like, it's like molecular and cellular biology. It's just a bunch of knowledge about the, like the human body and genes and stuff like that. Totally not applicable, not helpful at all. Would have rather just learned software engineering.
Mm-hmm. So you picked up a lot of your skills kind of on the side and with that data science academy that you work with. Yeah,
my first internship gave me the opportunity to like learn some Python and R to analyze data. Like my title was data analyst, even though it was like specifically for like within the molecular space at a biotech company. But from there on out, it's all been just like throwing myself more at software engineering. And other than that, I haven't really found, besides like maybe some statistics, like and scientific methodology, too many like widely applicable things.
Awesome. So to wrap things up here, I would just like to get any final thoughts and, topics you might want to share, that you think we haven't covered, anything you guys want to share?
I think like with like ChatGPT recently, like there's been like huge spotlight on AI, and like everyone's talking about what AI can do. I think at the same time, it also opens up like a lot of questions on like how to manage like expectations, or like how we train the models in a way that like we're not hurting the people that we're creating the products for. Like, for example, like when ChatGPT like creates something through Stable Diffusion, and like you look at a bunch of images, none of those people get credit, right? So like it's always like nuances like that, like to figure out a way to like balance like the good that we're doing and the harm that we're doing with the work that we're making.
That's
Perfect answer. No.
Very, very good point right there. I think that's where things start moving towards responsibility, like responsible AI. There's been a whole lot around explainability, interpretability, these types of things, so I think that you bring up a really good point there. Kyle, did you want to add, or?
I don't want to follow that at all. That was great. Nothing I could say is having as soon as that. Yeah, that's a perfect closer.
Well, guys, it was really awesome having you guys on with us. We really had so much fun on this interview. We will be having you back for sure. So it's really exciting. Todd, you had any last words here?
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your insights on how Etsy is using machine learning. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a blast. Thank you.
Ton of fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining another edition of AI Innovation Space. We're glad you're able to join us this time, and we're looking forward to talking to you guys soon.
This has been the AI Innovation Space, sponsored by Illumin. Thanks so much for listening.
Be sure to connect with us through LinkedIn and the Illumin website to learn more about how AI and emerging technology can help you. Also, be on the lookout for our next episode coming soon. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.